Me merging on the 422 with this is like waiting for the drum solo in the air tonight.
Yeah.
It's like, here it comes. And merge time. Ooh. Yep, it's Toyota. Awesome. What's up, BMW M5? This thing feels like it would just sit at 110 and not care.
Yeah, it does. It's dangerous. Not in the sense that's going to kill me, but it wants you to.
Yeah. Whoa! How did that move that quick? What the hell? I don't want to call this like a Swiss Army knife. It feels like a really good chef's knife.
Yeah?
Oh, that BMW is right behind us. Yeah, he's got turbos.
Yeah.
Greatest car ever made, greatest car ever made, greatest car ever made.
But first, this scene.
My name is Jeremy Shaneman. I'm a 21-year-old from Jasper, Indiana. My mom has a framed airbrush portrait of Kyle Rittenhouse in the living room, and my dad is building a community playground modeled after January 6th. I spend my evenings drawing Luna on line stationery and then burning the pages before Dad finds them during his nightly room investigations. But July 4th weekend is coming up, and I'm going to Pittsburgh with my friends I met on Bark. My cover story of fireworks and baseball is working, and I'm ready to party non-stop. This weekend is never, ever going to end. I am full of Celsius and 99 bananas, and I'm never going to run out of energy. Woo! 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 I'm gonna OD on EDM. And then I'm gonna jump in the Allegheny River outside the David Lawrence Convention Center.
Do you feel that 21-year-old energy? That's what a 2GR swapped MR2 feels like. It feels like go, 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 go. Bigger, harder, fuller, shooting thick ropes.
It's me, Jeremy Shaneman again. I know I'm gonna be in trouble when I get home, but that's Tuesday's problem. Right now it's...
This is a 2GR swapped second-gen MR2 or SW20. Although later in this video I will find that in the United States, SW20 is not the true chassis code. The hierarchy of second-generation MR2s goes like this. You had the naturally aspirated 4 cylinders. They made 130 horsepower. Then Toyota had the turbocharged 3SGT engines. Those made 200 horsepower and 200 pound-feet of torque. If you wanted more power in the 90s, you had to buy the Supra. Now you could have a naturally aspirated 2J Supra. Those were cheaper. Those would get you 220 horsepower and 210 pound-feet of torque. But here's the fun thing. The 2GR V6 makes 275 horsepower at 6,200 RPM and 257 pound-feet of torque at 4,700 RPM. This V6 MR2 is lighter and makes more power than a naturally aspirated 4th-gen Supra. And if you don't know too much about what the 2GR is, that's fine. The 2GR FE V6 is one of those engines that never got the spotlight, but it should have. See, V6s are always billed as the opening or feature act, but they're never a headliner. V8s and big power turbo 4s, they get on they're the headliner. They get on the For You page. V6s, for most car enthusiasts to know a V6 by name it either has to be an industry upsetter like Buick's 3.8 Turbo 6 from the Buick Grand National, or so universal that the algorithm can't ignore it, like the Honda J Series. But the 2GR V6 from Toyota, most people don't know about how good it is. It's like, and I mean this with nothing but love, it's like the musician Vic Ruggiero, a multi-instrumentalist with a long career and endless collaborations, and when you hear what he can do live, you'll think, my God, where have you been? The 2GR V6 most famously powers the Toyota Sienna minivan. But in that situation, it showed the world that a minivan could maintain 90 miles an hour with the same smoothness as a BMW. You'll also find the 2GR in most mid-tier Lexuses that grandparents buy and then ignore. And an honorable mention goes to the one Toyota RAV4 that came with the 2GR V6. And that engine transformed, normally RAV4s have 4-bangers. Normally, a RAV4 is just a grass and gravel grocery getter. But when paired with the 2GR, it turned into a freeway merging machine and towny hole shot surprise.
Wife not horny? Scared that she's going to run away with the Verizon customer service rep? It's your name,
Charles Hurd!
Find the whole shot surprise and make her bust. God damn it!
This V6 has a 7,200 RPM redline. So that means when you put it in the MR2, you shift this when your tack needle is deep into the red. Driving a 2GR swapped MR2 feels like trying to walk an adolescent Great Dane that finally grew into its legs, or trying to babysit a 21-year-old on their birthday who got their first taste of buzzballs, or babysitting a closeted red state cis male discovering himself. You can get 2GR V6s from anywhere, and this particular one came from the Lexus RX 350. Oh, and by the way, the 2GR V6s also are found in Lotus Emiras and the Lotus Evora, which is as close as we'll ever come to a Gen 4 MR2.
I keep calling it the hood. Some people want to call it the engine cover. I don't know. All right. Immediately, I'm seeing something that shouldn't be there. That shouldn't be there. No, it should have the prop.
No, my car never had the prop. It was missing when I bought it.
Okay. Did you make those brackets yourself?
No, this was a kit. I can't remember who made it. I've had it on my car for like 8 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel so bad. The whole point of this car is the engine, and I'm immediately getting excited about the hood prop. So this engine is the 2GR V6.
Yeah.
How many different cars did Toyota use this engine?
A lot. This one specifically is out of a Lexus RX 350. There's also in Siennas, Camrys, RAV4s, Lexus ES 300s, Toyota Avalons, pretty much everything between like 2008 and a couple of years ago when they stopped using the V6.
Did this engine exist in different like states of tune?
Yes.
Between? Okay.
Like it was in the IS 350. It was much higher tune than it would be if you in your grandma's or family's Sienna.
When it was in the IS, was it tuned for 91 at that time? Yeah. Really? So what did they change in the engine between the Sienna and the sort of sports sedan versions of this engine to have it make more power?
I know the intake manifolds are different.
Oh.
I know there's like 3 different intake manifolds you can get for this engine, depending on what application it was. Because in because this is a transverse,
Yeah.
And in the IS 300, it would be longitudinal. So the intakes are different.
Okay, so you had different intake manifolds, but then you would also, I'm guessing the simple things, ignition advance and maybe compression, but compression would imply like different pistons.
Yeah.
And different cylinder heads.
There are different pistons for this, but they're for the hybrid.
Oh.
I know all the non-hybrid ones are pretty much the same, but I know one of the things people do to hot rod them is they put the hybrid pistons in them.
And at that point, you're tearing down one of these engines.
Yeah.
Oh, man. But, like, looking at it up close, because normally every time I see the 1GR or the 2GR, they're covered in plastic.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. And especially in any Lexus, they're like, don't look at it.
Yeah.
But there's really not this V6 is so compact.
Yeah.
Like if you had a cover here, it would almost look like it was a 4-cylinder.
And it's actually narrower than the 4 cylinders that were in this, because one of the problems I ended up having was because this V6 is narrower than the 4 cylinders.
Yeah.
It changed where the shifter cables came out.
Oh.
So I actually had to put some spacers in there. I made some out of aluminum so it would shift right, because before it was binding.
Oh.
So if you look kind of down in there, there's a couple like pieces of aluminum plate.
Uh-huh.
And it's because I was having some issues with this cable binding, because the where the bracket is now with the V6, because it's a shorter V6, the V6 is shorter than the 4-cylinder. It means that the transmission's actually shifted a little bit too.
Oh. Okay.
I also don't have. This was originally a non-turbo car. I have a turbo transmission in there, and I also have an LSD in it as well.
Sweet. So the transmission that's hooked up to this is what transmission?
It's an E153 out of a 92 turbo.
Okay. And the bolt pattern's the same?
Yes and no. You can get 4 holes to line up. so there's 4 bolts holding it together, but
Out of how many?
Like 12.
No, for real. It's not 12 bolts that hold the transmission on, really?
No, well, like in the stock car, but there's like heat shield, there's like shields and stuff too that.
Okay.
I think it's like 8 normally or something like that.
Okay. So half the amount of bolts.
Half the amount of bolts. A lot of people have done it, and a lot of people have running it for years and no one had any trouble with it. 3 of the holes that the bolts are through were pre-tapped.
Okay.
One of them, there was a hole already in the 2GR that wasn't being used, but it lined up, so I had to tap and helicoil that one.
Okay.
So.
All right. So 4 out of 8
Yeah, ish.
are holding the gearbox on. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And how many miles have you driven it like that? Have you driven it hard?
Yeah.
Like hard pulls? Okay. And all right. Nothing weird shifting around or.
Nothing weird.
All right then.
I've been really mean to her. She's been
nice.
taking it pretty good. So stock coolant system, MR2s are pretty robust with their coolant.
Oh yeah.
There's like 3 gallons of coolant in it.
I remember I had to change the thermostat because the thermostat was stuck open and I wasn't getting any heat. So okay, you have to drain coolant and burp it. And we were there trying to get the radiator fans to turn on. And we're just there, it's idling for a half an hour. And it still didn't turn on. And it wasn't until we actually started revving it hard. And then finally the fans kicked on for like 20 seconds and they're like, okay, we're cool again. Yeah. For people who don't understand, because the motors are here, engines are here, and your radiator is all the way up here, you have big, thick, heavy hard lines that run underneath the car all the way back. So as the coolant travels from the engine to the radiator, it's already cooling off because it's underneath the car. Presumably you're moving, air is going over it, then it gets to the radiator, then it cools off, and then it takes a scenic route all the way back. But that also means that all of these lines hold like an extra, how many? Like at least a half gallon, maybe more, of coolant that's just always not being used. So the thermal capacity of all MR2s is massive. I was told by my buddy Justin Bernash, you know him from the giveaways, but he used to have a shop called Prime MR2 over in Jersey. And he said when they would just do autocross stuff with MR2s, people say, do I need a new radiator? Do I need extra cooling fans or better cooling fans? He's like, no, just take them out. Do a whole track day with them. On the stock cooling system, they don't care. There's enough coolant in it that they just stay cool. And have you experienced the same thing now that you have more cylinders?
Yeah, I haven't had any issues with coolant at all.
I learned something new. I always call them SW20s, but why am I seeing SW21?
Because this was originally a non-turbo car, and non-turbo cars were actually SW21, and actually turbo cars were actually SW22s. There wasn't any, I think Japanese market ones were the ones that say SW20 on the VINs.
Oh, so is this just Initial D's fault?
Yeah.
that they called it the SW20 in the game, and everybody watched it like, that's what this is!
Yeah.
The MR2 was quick-ish for its day, but with this modern V6, it's being shoved into the future, and it wants to be there. The car feels limitless. Now, the 2GR isn't like an LS engine. The 2GR has its problems. These things are known to leak oil from the front timing cover. The water pump is known to leak, and they even had a recall over failing rubber oil cooler lines that spill more oil than a tanker for British Petroleum. The 2GR became a popular MR2 swap because of price, honestly. Yes, there were kits to put a Honda K engine in here or an F20, that's true. And if you want maximum power out of your second generation MR2, well then you need the fourth generation 3SGTE Turbo 4 out of the Toyota Caldina. And then you do boost control, throttle body, and tune, and you can make 350 at the wheels. In fact, we drove one of those when Justin still had his shop. But that's a JDM engine that was never sold in the United States. So you have to pay for the engine before you can even pay for the engine. You know, shipping and everything. Whereas getting minivan engines, or Lexus engines, or Camry engines, they're all 2GR V6s, in they go, and all the parts you want at any retail shop. And if you really wanted to, you could use one of the Sienna engines, because those are detuned a little bit so they can run 87 octane. So you could have a really fast sports car that uses cheap gas. How cool is that? But the surginess, the wide torque band of this engine in this car, every gear change feels like it's loading up one of those slingshots, you know, the supposedly illegal ones. I'm going back to the 90s here, those ones with the surgical tubing and the wrist brace. Every time you pull this gear shifter back, it feels like the car is just loading itself up again because this engine has been set free. It's no longer in a 7 or 8 passenger minivan. It's in a 2-seat mid-engine sports car. So it's just yum, yum, yum every gear change. And I believe what she said, that someone in Bonneville with the correct gearing got a second-gen MR2 to go 210 miles an hour with one of these engines. The only thing that made me feel weird driving this is knowing that only 4 bolts hold this transmission to the engine, out of supposedly 8. Now, I've driven sketchy stuff, but if this thing survived track days with only 4 bolts holding the engine and transmission together, well, I guess that is good enough. In the pressed flesh of cars and coffee crowds and the professional goalpost movers, the MR2 is an artifact of democratized performance. Because you can do plenty with this engine and drivetrain. You can break this car in a video game sense long before you break this car in a mechanical sense. Because Toyota didn't appear to be holding this to the same standard as the Supra or the Celica. So the MR2 was free to be weird. Toyota didn't have to build this car. That's why I say it's the greatest car ever made, in my horny opinion. Look, in the 1980s, Toyota and Honda were the hot new company, showing the world what reliable performance could be. Their Corollas and Camrys were loved. They didn't need to make a mid-engine sports car. They had the Celica and they had the Supra, but they did it anyway. And then in the 1990s, Toyota became the gold standard of reliable performance. They didn't need to keep making a mid-engine sports car. After all, they had the Supra, but they did it anyway and added a turbo. If the Toyota Supra is Dad's draft day meal ticket out of the boonies, then the MR2 is the less favored son who's free to pursue a degree in brewing. It may or may not ever be lucrative for him, but some people put passion ahead of solvency. And you can't say the MR2 is here for any other reason than performance manifests destiny. Toyota only got to be number 1 because they weren't afraid to bust in public. They made this weird little coupe with rally car dynamics that got spanked by every metric by Mazda with the Miata. The Miata of any generation is still a better car at carring than an MR2. But the MR2 still became one of the brand's greatest cult classics because Toyota didn't give a smooth shit about perception. It was the type of swing they wouldn't take again until the Lexus LFA, except I mean, the first generation MR2, they made the platform, but then they just grabbed a whole bunch of Corolla stuff, turned it around backwards, and put it in the middle. Toyota was Tony Stark, and every other automaker was Jeff Bridges, complaining that they made this from a box of scraps. But its appeal didn't necessarily end at what came from stock, and this would remain true in subsequent generations. You engine swapped second generation MR2s because the build quality of everything around it wouldn't penalize you for ambition. But then that leaves the question, is possibility a rubber stamp? Is a swap justifiable simply because it's possible? Well, the answer is the same as it's always been. It's justifiable to a point. It has to make sense with the overall build, otherwise you just end up with a car that has all the dimension, detail, and efficiency of a YouTube thumbnail. The road to hell's gaping clown hole is paved with ideas that mechanically work right up until the moment it's wrapped around a tree, like champagne room legs around a congressman's face. But the thing is, this is what we think of when we hear engine swap. We think of ships of Theseus, where ambition and reality are two negotiations who are miles apart on contract terms. It's up to the owner to get ambition and reality to meet as close to the middle as possible, and it's not always possible. Yet builds like this suggest that the compromise is simply building practicality. A practical build makes sense if you want a car that will last longer and can be run harder. And I feel like this is part of that more practical build. In addition to the 2GR, this is equipped with the E153 transmission from the 1992 MR2 turbo model. You can't use the transmissions from the naturally aspirated 4-cylinders behind a 2GR. It'll just break. You want to build one of these things, you need the transmission that came with the turbo, and that's Toyota's E153. This car also has an aftermarket limited slip differential, billet aluminum rear knuckles, a Wilhelm Raceworks suspension geometry kit, KW coilovers, an under-tunnel brace, poly bushings and sway bars. And then, like a cherry on top, Celica GTS steering wheel. The MR2 is not the workman's car, but it's running on a workman-like engine. A corporate V6 built simply to endure and then die like a 14th century anybody. But what if you let the old junkyard dog off its leash? No! What if you put the old junkyard dog in a body that can keep up with all that aggression? That's what this MR2 is. This is blue-collar performance. Honest, consistent, with suppressed rage kept at bay by pesky things like laws and social norms. So if you get the chance to drive a 2GR swapped MR2, please do. It's one of the greatest experiences you'll have. And if you're thinking about buying a second generation MR2, and if you find one that's been swapped and swapped right, it'll be one of the greatest cars you'll ever buy.
Like, I can get the final drive of V6 Camry from the 90s.
Yeah.
And drop the RPMs a little bit.
Yeah.
And you could probably cruise really fast. I don't think I want to do that though.
Right, because I mean these are aerodynamic, but Toyota never intended this thing to go through the air that quick.
No. Though somebody did run one of these at Bonneville. I think they went to like 215 or something like that.
Damn. The car feels bored right now at this speed. Man, driving this thing in traffic has to be like a nightmare because you have all this power and all this torque and an engine that's just hungry all the time and you're going 30.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tend to not mind traffic in my AW11, but that's just because I'm like, well, I got 112 horsepower. Who am I doing anything right now? I'm literally just commuting.
Yeah.
I'm just going through 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 2, 2, 2, 3, 2. Man, it is tough to rev match.
Yeah,
because it's so touchy.
Yeah.
That throttle is a switch. Maybe I just have to let the throwout bearing do its thing?
Yeah.
Or not throwout bearing. What am I thinking of? The synchros.
Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds so good. The music happens at 6.
Yeah.
I would never get tired of that.